Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Rarran here. If you don't know who I am a pretty high-level player in Mario Tennis Aces. I played the game so much that I probably have a problem. But I'm not here to discuss me. I'm here to discuss problems with the game itself. And one glaring issue that I think a lot of us probably are aware of, it's just no one has made a public announcement on it to actually help the game improve and hopefully keep the competitive integrity that Nintendo is going for. The main issue is tournament mode. With tournament mode, the idea behind it was very smart. It gave a very intense, very interesting way of climbing, like ladder in a way. The idea, I guess, was try to follow like a round robin tournament or just a regular tournament to show like what the sport's kind of like and how you would actually reach a championship if this was a real tennis. Here is the glaring problem, though. The player base is not nearly big enough to have this kind of tournament mode rather than just a simple ranked mode. And the reason is this because you divide the player base by 5 rather than the entire player base can get queued against each other. Now, what do I mean by you get divided by 5? Well, this is why I have paint kind of open here, so I can kind of describe this without really, without just like a visual cue, because clearly like that's going to be the problem. And I'm going to just try to describe this the best as possible and give a solution at the end that Nintendo could possibly do to very much improve the state of the game, because this is probably the worst part of the game by far. Basically, what I mean by it divides the player base by 5 is that in tournament mode, there are different rounds. So this is the first round, obviously, and then if you win, you go to this round, which is the second round. If you win that, you go to the quarterfinals. Obviously, my boxes are not good, and then you go to semis. Then the grand finale is this one. So imagine you're a player with, let's say, in this scenario, you have 4,000 elo, right, or rating. You are looking for someone based on the algorithm that's probably like plus or minus 200 elo. So you are looking for someone who is either 4,200 or you're looking for someone that has 3,800, which is reasonable. That's probably going to be a very good match. It's close to your skill level. That's what most people are expecting when they queue into a game. Now, when I say divided by 5, it is because of the rounds. So imagine the player base is, for this scenario, is 100,000. I think that's probably close to the player base now. It's probably a little less or a little bit more, but I could be wrong. So it's 100,000 for all 5 rounds. So if you divide that by 20, or divide that by 5, sorry, you get 20,000 players. 20,000 players per round, which, it doesn't seem that bad, does it? Until you realize that that's 20,000 players all playing at the exact same time. So that means that every single player would have to be on for that 20,000 to actually be there. Now think about it like this. There's probably, I would say, around maybe 15% of players playing at a time, give or take like 10%, I would say, depending on like what day it is. So if I take 15% of 20,000, that is a pretty small number, right? Like I can't even, off the top of my head, I'm gonna have to pull up a calculator because clearly I'm not that good at math. So if I do 20,000 divided by 15, that is 1,000 players. 1,300 players. If I take 15% of that, which is it's still a decent amount, but that's not even taking in rating. Rating is the issue in tournament mode. Those two things go together under one condition, which Mario Tennis does not meet, and that is player base. 1,300 players in one of these rounds is horrible. Like that's horrible because it's looking for someone near your rating as well. And for someone like me who is around 4,400 elo, the chance of finding someone who's in the top 1% of the game out of 1,300 people potentially is so bad. It is so bad. And it ends up giving me a player that should not be going against me whatsoever. Absolutely not even close. And oftentimes I will face someone who's around 3,000 elo, maybe 2,000 elo. If I'm lucky, 3,500 elo. And if I'm very lucky, it'll be around my elo. And this leads to problems in gameplay because it not only discourages new players who just bought the game to face someone like me ever again, it leaves the player having a very salty taste in their mouth because of the fact that they now have to face someone where they are not even close to their skill. And it just causes them to, be like raging, like, why did I even play that game? That was not fun whatsoever. And then on my perspective, it gives me, why did I face against that person? I did not learn a single thing about that game. I don't even gain elo off that game. I basically just gave that person a bad experience in this game. So by having rating and a tournament mode together in a small player base ends up having very poor experiences for both players majority of the time. Now, obviously, the lower rating you are and the closer to the mean rating, you're going to have a better time because there's more players in that percentile than in my elo. But that should not be the case in a game that holds a very high competitive integrity, because the entire game is your fault if you lose. It's no one else's. It's literally your skill. So there should not be a case where I am getting someone who is much lower than me, or significantly higher than me if I'm on a lower elo than someone else. The reason why this is a very, very bad state of the game is because for elo, if I beat someone who is at 3,000 elo, I get nothing. I literally will get nothing. I will maybe get 1, maybe 2 elo if that's the case, but probably majority of the time I'm getting nothing. If I face someone in my elo, I can get maybe 50, 20. I can lose 20, I can lose 100, whatever, because that person's in my skill level and that makes sense. But if I face someone in the elo of, let's say, 3,000 and I'm 4,000 elo and I lose that game, I'm losing so much elo. And it doesn't matter if I played 100 games before and I won all of them. The elo loss is going to be greater than what I've gained in the previous games, which is the absolute worst feeling ever. It is horrible because I just spent probably maybe 2 hours playing the game just to lose it all in like 5 minutes, let's say. That's a very bad case. Now, what Nintendo was going for was actually a good idea theoretically. And the only reason it's good theoretically is because you have to fit a condition of player base. So I want you to imagine that this game had 1 million rather than 100,000. We're 10 timesing the player base, which is significantly easier finding someone in your percentile, which is great. Like it adds the the competitive integrity of the game. It's a cool format. It does exactly what both players want, or both the players and the developers wanted. It's a great idea. But because the player base is so significantly smaller, it does not work at all. So you may ask yourself, what are the solutions to this problem? There's 3 very easy solutions that they could possibly do. Number 1 is, just have a ranked online mode. That way you do not divide the player base by 5. You actually just have the entire player base. And it's easier for me to find someone at my elo because obviously the player base is higher and the overall number population is higher. Therefore, better overall experience for me and the other player I'm going against. The other way of thinking about it is have a tournament where all 32 players are picked before the tournament even starts. This may not be as effective because you would have to wait longer for the entire tournament to build and actually get every single player in position. But at least that way you would face against people who are near your elo because the tournament would be prepared beforehand. And obviously the better player will win majority of the time. Of course, you can play bad, but whatever. The better player will win, and therefore you have a better experience for both players. And that also will let players get better at the game. If you're facing someone who is significantly lower than you or significantly higher, you don't really learn anything. It's either you get crushed or you're crushing. Of course, there's those odd games where you probably do very well, but in this scenario, it's not the case. The third change is have it both on online and a tournament mode. This may be a problem because it splits the player base probably in 2, and maybe one person tournament mode will cease to exist. But it may be a beneficial change because at least if they have both, I have the option of trying to find someone in my actual elo out of the entire player base. These are just my thoughts. I would love to hear what you guys think. I think that the overall improvement of having an online mode will be, significantly better than having anything else in the game. And I've seen people like obviously complain that, oh, I'm facing someone who's way out of my elo. Why am I even going against this person? This is kind of the reason why. It could also be that Nintendo's algorithm is just completely busted. But the way I imagine it is that it starts to look for someone in your elo, and as more time goes, the range that they look for it gets bigger. So eventually, it comes to the point if no one's in like 3,500 elo, it goes to 3,000 elo. If I'm at 4,000, which is way, way, way too big. But I digress. I hope that Nintendo can maybe realize that this is the problem rather than anything else. By doing this, they would significantly have a better community, and the overall player base would probably be better and improve faster and enjoy the game more. These are just my thoughts, though. Let me know what you guys think. I'm Rarran. I hope you guys enjoyed. See you later.